I took my kids to a movie. Took my kids to a movie this evening, and it was The Incredibles 2. So if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. It was a lot of fun, and I generally take my kids to these movies so I can watch them. But it was really interesting towards the end of the movie, in the last half hour or so. I started processing. I started thinking about what it means to be strong, what it means to have strength. We have physical strength. We can have a strong immune system. We have strong character. But what does it take to be strong? And is there any similarities between developing physical strength and developing strength of character? And the more I thought about it, the more I found there's a lot of similarities. There's things that when we look at our physical strength, there's things that and how we develop physical strength that we really could learn from, especially in the whole world of emotional strength, or having a strong character. And the similarities are actually quite fascinating. So you think about physical strength. What does it take to develop more strength than what you had before? Well, you have to encounter outside forces. There has to be more force than what you're accustomed to dealing with, and either you push into it and move the weight around, and if you overcome the existing force or the extra force that's being applied, you naturally become stronger over time. But you have to be willing to pick up the weight, and you have to be willing to be with that weight long enough for your body to respond. Now, here's the interesting thing, though. With strength training, when we exercise in general, what we do is we set a time aside. We impose a certain amount of stress on the body. We do it over time. We can be very specific in how we impose stress on the body, and then we take time to recover, and then we actually put the weight down. And so, physical strength really is just a very simplified way of saying it. Physical strength, we simply pick the weight up, we put the weight down, and we recover. We pick the weight up, we pick the weight down, and we recover. We apply stress, we stay under stress for a short period of time, and then we put the stress down, and then we recover. Right? And we do that over time, and we give ourselves a break in that recovery. What if I said that, in order to be strong, you had to pick up the weight and you had to carry it for the rest of your life? You had to carry that barbell full of plates for the next 15, 20 years of your life. What if you had to, if somebody said you're running and, oops. What if somebody said that running, you had to run with a weight vest on? And that's the only way that you could actually develop any strength. What if that was the only way? And so you decided you put a weight vest on, and sorry guys, I just one of my things is kicking out here. There we go. There. So what if you're going to go for a run, and they said, okay, in order to be able to become a strong runner, you have to wear a weight vest. So you put on a 20-pound weight vest and you start to run. And you run and you run, and of course you only get maybe a mile or two, and then you're exhausted because extra stress is really kind of wearing you down. So you try that for a couple of days, and you head out there and you run a mile and a half with a weight vest, and then you take the stress off. Then you take the weight vest off the next time you go to run, and you just fly. And you find that it's so easy just to make distance. The stress is gone. The weight is off your shoulders. Now, again, it's a really, really simplified concept of what it takes to be strong. But really, at the end of the day, it's applying resistance to the body, meeting the resistance, meeting it consciously, and then putting it down, putting the weight down when it's not necessary. When I look at emotional character or emotional strength or character strength, and it seems quite often that what I see in the world, almost more often than not, is the conversation around having strong character is being able to take a punch, right? Having emotional strength is being able to withstand suffering for 20 years. And it really doesn't make any sense, because it's, if you look at the things that we're challenged with, you look at the things that we go through. And let's say, for example, there's a stage in your life where you were in a abusive situation, and of course, in that lasted, the abusive situation was lasted 2 years, for example. But it didn't last 7 days a week, 4 weeks of the month for the entire time, or did it happen in fragments of time? Did the actual stress happen in fragments of time that it was not happening? It happened that it stopped happening. It happened that it stopped happening. But it didn't happen every single day. It didn't happen every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month. It didn't last every single day. And what I find with sometimes the emotional strength that a lot of people show, people are tremendously resilient. But what I find is that we forgot to put the weight down. And we almost feel fraudulent. I know it was my experience in the past when somebody had said that, I really give you a lot of credit for your strength. You're so strong. But packing that weight around for 20 years, I'm not sure if that's a sign of strength. I think it's a sign, it could be almost a sign of desperation. We're so scared to put this thing down. And we've been carrying this thing for so long that we don't know what it feels like to be anything else. We've been under that stress for so long. But being able to take a punch, being able to suffer for 20 years is not a sign of strength. Right? I mean, there's some resilience there, and I know I've had my experience of dragging things on and on. But if I look at my journey into strength training, I realize that I have to recover. I've really got to recover in this process. I just can't keep taking another personal development course, right? Going to another seminar, hoping and praying, doing as much good as I can, right? And just trying to do all this work when really I'm not even willing to put the weight down inside of me. I'm not even willing to put it aside. I'm not even willing to recover. So I keep looking for the next thing to make me better. I keep looking for the next thing to make me smarter. I keep looking for the next thing other than trying to get into the act or understand how I accomplish the act of putting the stuff down. And it's, and again, I just, I'm trying to formulate this thought process as it was coming to me. And again, this is just an hour ago in the kids' movie, but it just really struck me as, what an amazing similarity, between strength training and personal development. The whole idea is to encounter a bit of stress and then let it settle, let the body recover with it, right? The benefit is in the recovery. It's not always in the work, right? You use the work to get you going, but I think the tendency to pack things around for an incredible long period of time. There's a conversation around forgiveness, and forgiveness is a tool that we're supposed to use to eliminate things in our past. And I found that, I don't know about you, but I find sometimes the whole concept around forgiveness really sticks in my throat, right? Really sticks in my craw, where I'm going, I don't know, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to forgive you. And so how do I get around that? And I realized, of course, that I couldn't use the word forgiveness in some circumstances, but I could rise above it, right? I could rise above my challenges so that it took the edge off. And when I took the edge off, rising above it, I found that it became less of an issue. And I went from having anger and frustration, wanting to make somebody's life very uncomfortable, to rising above it far enough away where it didn't really matter anymore. I hadn't forgiven them, but they didn't really matter inside my life. They were not relevant anymore. And that for some of the more challenging circumstances, that's what I've had to do. I couldn't find the way to forgive. My brain just was not going to let it go. So I had to rise above it. And again, just using a fun metaphor. But think about it. I mean, honestly, think about it. And I'll end this really quick. If I look at the whole course of my life, right? So I've been on the planet 53 years this Sunday. And I lived through all sorts of really incredibly wild, weird stuff. Some of it I did to myself, and some of it was kind of thrust upon my life. But if I look at the actual time where all this shitty stuff was happening, if I look at if I had somebody there with a stopwatch, right? If the universe could say, okay, listen, we went through we went upstairs and up to the TV room, and we're looking at the replay of your life. And something, at 53 years of your life, all the ugly stuff only actually occurred within a 3-week period. Right? Does that make sense? So out of my 53 years of life, if I could go back into the control room, I'm sitting there with the universe, I'm turning the dial back, and I'm looking at a replay of my whole life. And out of the 53 years, maybe only 3 weeks of it was really, really challenging. I mean, where it was really bad. Like it was not, just one of those really bad days. But if I got beat by my father, it lasted maybe 5 minutes or so. He didn't beat me all week. But it's just the feeling that the feeling I took from the beating, I carried with me for the rest of the week. Or I carried it with me for the rest of the month. Or I carried it with me the rest of my life. And those are the weights that we're carrying. And how exhausting must it be to pack that weight around week after week, year after year, decade after decade, packing that weight around. When really it's just, it's not, I'll give us credit for being resilient, but it's just no fun. How exhausting must it be to carry the weights around of our past? And we're making the weight seem too big. Right? We're making the weight seem far, far too big. So when somebody says, my childhood was ruined, right? Because when I grew up, I lived in a very abusive environment. Through my whole childhood, there was nothing but abuse. But I bet if you went up to the control room, and I'm not saying, ugly shit doesn't happen, because I certainly have experienced that in my life, but it didn't happen all the time. It happened sometimes. Right? It didn't happen all the time. It happened sometimes. But I remembered it all the time. And it was my remembering it that kept carrying it forward. That kept picking that weight up, even though the exercise was over. The shitty stuff had stopped happening. The stress was no longer occurring. But my mind picked it up and kept carrying it. And every time I went through different circumstances, I picked up another one. And I carried that one as well. So when you carry stuff around that's that heavy on your soul, it's going to bring you to your knees, and you have no energy for anything else. You have no energy for anything else. So if we reframe the whole process, let's have a look at it and say, if my whole childhood was ruined, if I actually go back and was honest, I was really, really honest, not trying to set anybody free, not trying to vindicate anybody else, and it wasn't even about forgiveness. It was just being realistic, saying, if I look at the whole course of my life, and I look at my childhood, and if I said, okay, again, and I mentioned this previously, the really shitty stuff only took about 3 weeks in entirety. So instead of me thinking that this enormous block of time was where my life was ruined and my life was being challenged by stupid people, and I imagine my whole childhood, like let's say a 10-year span of my childhood, that's massive. That's a huge weight. But in my mind, if I just go, you know what? In my 53 years, I've only been challenged for about 3 weeks in total. Now, they weren't fun. I learned a lot from them. And my life felt light. I was actually able to move. I had all this energy when I finally put the fucking weight down. When I finally put the weight down. And now it doesn't mean that there's more stress coming at me. It doesn't mean there's more things I have to handle. But I gotta just put the weight down. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. If we do these things in our mind, and we keep buying new books and keep taking new courses and keep trying and trying, but it doesn't work unless you're willing to put the weight down. Is it that simple? Because I think for a lot of us, we've done enough work. We've read enough books. If you never bought another book ever in your life, you'd probably be fine. If you just acted on what you currently know. You acted on what the book said on your nightstand. Those 15 books that are running the risk of collapsing and landing on top of you. Right? If you just acted on what you know, but you can't do that unless you put the weight down. So it's time for a new exercise program. Right? We know that you're freaking strong, right? But what would happen? Now, just imagine, and again, let's go superhero, because I was watching a superhero movie with the kids. What happens when you're on a planet with 10 times the gravity of planet Earth, and you grow up in that environment, right? And then you come down to Earth, right? Maybe you're Superman, and you jump off the ground, and you're missing all that gravity. You end up in the stratosphere. There's nothing holding you down anymore, and you jump and you just fly. You're so powerful, and you have this almost seeming like superhuman strength. Well, don't you think that would happen when you put the shit down? When you put all the stuff down, when you put down all the stuff we've been carrying for so long, wouldn't we be that strong? Wouldn't we be like a freaking superhero? The stuff we could do, the massive strength we would have, because nothing is going to be as ugly as the shit I already seen. Right? I might even have freaking laser eyes. So think about it, right? And again, it's a fun way to look at it, but just think about it. Isn't it possible? You spent all that time developing all that strength. Put the shit down, right? And all of a sudden it's like zero gravity. There's nothing going to stop you. And I feel like that in my life now. The more stuff I put down, the more stuff I just get off my shoulders. When I move, I go miles rather than feet. When I put out energy, it's just massive. And I think we can all do the same thing. So I'll challenge you, if you struggle with things in your history, I'll challenge you to change the terminology, change the way you talk about it. I'll challenge you to change that and reframe it and actually be brutally honest. We're not looking to release anybody. It's not about forgiving anybody. It's not about vindicating somebody. It's not about that some shit just sticks in my throat, and I just I find it hard, right? I just I bear a grudge sometimes around some of these things. But if I actually look at the total amount of time where the shit was actually going down, it is. Here, we'll have a T-shirt done. Actually, just for those icons, right? But I'll challenge you, if you look at your history and look at how long the bad things were actually happening, the actual time, right? If you had a stopwatch, time it, and just write it down, right? You don't need details. Write it down. The bad shit will happen in this roughly amount of time. But I refuse to put it down. Is why I'm so tired. I refuse to put it down, which is why I have no energy for anything else. I refuse to put it down, which is why I don't have the energy and the strength to do what I want to do. Man, put the stuff down and be fucking Superman. All right, I gotta go, guys. Anyhow, that's what you get for watching The Incredibles 2. All right, that's what you get watching The Incredibles 2. But it just, but my mind is moving this way, and the world is moving this way, and I think we're trying to find just really simple ways. We just don't want to work this hard. I've been lifting shit a long time. And there's always going to be a little bit of stress. There's always going to be little things to make my character strong. There's always going to be things to show up, to make me more resilient. But when it shows up, I'm going to lift that fucking weight and then I'm going to put it down and wait, and then, leap a building with a single bound and on to the next thing, right? Ain't no kryptonite here. All right. Guys, have a great night. Thanks for hanging out.